Agriculture, and acknowledge them for their openness in working with us going forward to better our community. We're striving to listen, learn and build this community with you, not just for you. We want to do it together, and we want to build that confidence with you over time. And that has been my mantra since we got here, that we want to build your trust and your confidence in us, and that's what we're working to do. Just running through what we're going to do with you this evening. We've got some update on some of our recent projects, and then President Smith will take you through the 2025-26 priorities as we're going into the new financial year. And then we have reached out to the community over the last few weeks and asked for people to submit questions. So we do have a few to kick off this evening with, and then we will open up our question and answer session with you all. Please wait for the mic, and we will have a roving mic later so that those that are online are able to hear you. And we are sort of in training in that we are trying to invite some of our ministerial representatives and things to be able to listen into these meetings, and hope that we will be able to in the future let you know that we've had certain departments that are actually listening in on the evening, so that the things that you raise can even go higher if they need to, or if they have particular state interests. We welcome on open and respectful questions, feedback and discussion throughout. So if we can all just wait for the mic, and then we'll go forward from there. We've had a big year, as many of you know. We've had a change in CEO, and we've had a full executive team turnover. It's quite a lot for a council to undertake, but during that time we finished many projects, and we have a very exciting year coming. And so this evening I'm just going to take you through a few of the projects that we have progressed. The Tramway Bridge, as all of you know, at the moment it's in a bit of a negative in that it is certainly closed, but unfortunately that sort of came on us through a positive thing and through doing the engineering and the assessment of that. So the good part is that the whole of the bridge has now been fully assessed, and we understand what level of repair it requires. We're looking for roughly $6 million. We have secured about 2.2, and so we're in a very positive situation to be able to progress, and we're looking forward to hopefully being able to get it open next year. We are progressing some other funding opportunities as well, and we'll certainly be looking for grants. We're hoping to kick off the geotech in the next week or so, and from there we will then be able to have the final design looked into. It is a process. We do need to work with the Department of Heritage as well, but we have had some positive government interest, and so we hope to be able to come back to you with very exciting information over the next few months. We have been doing curbing throughout town, and most particularly in Morgantown, and the teams have nearly finished putting back all the verge works. There was about $300,000 worth of curbing, and it's been a successful project. We're in the process at the moment, shouldn't take very long, of finishing the Civic Centre improvements. It's been a very exciting time. Over $500,000 worth of improvements are happening next door. So there is roofing upgrades, flooring replacement, upgrades to the kitchen, new doors, air conditioning going in. All of those improvements are to make sure that it is disaster ready, and we've been really successful in a couple of programs. The Local Roads and Community Infrastructure grants federally, and the Disaster Ready DFES funding has assisted us with that, and it'll make sure that that the centre is absolutely able to support us if we need an evacuation centre, but equally in the meantime we can also use it to hold our events and things. So that's been a really exciting project. We're also progressing to electronic signs and weather monitoring across the Shire, and we've been fortunate to get some grants funded to about $120,000. Rainbot sensor gauges are going out on some of our more remote roads, and they'll be able to tell us when we get rain, and we'll have electronic signs, and that'll be able to improve how quickly we can tell people that roads are closed and things, and keep people off them hopefully, so that our pastoralists can continue to have a good network. But equally it does improve our productivity. We don't have to send someone out driving again onto the road itself to understand what's going on. So we're very excited about that. We've also had the fencing installed at the Pioneer Cemetery. It's my understanding that we're still waiting on some gates and the final signage, which is the reinstatement of the initial signage that was there. That's being undertaken locally, and that isn't very far away, and we'll be then able to move on to our next steps, which will be working with the families to reinstate some of the gravestones and work with them on how. And we also want to do a bit more beautification in there. So we've had some people reach out to us to want to assist us on that, and so that's very exciting as well. We've had some extensive work undertaken on the Manila Linden Road. We spent over $806,000 there, 4 kilometres of resheet, drainage improvements, and that has been awarded to a local contractor. All of our regional road group grants have been awarded to a local contractor who is building up their capability, and so that's been exciting that the money stays locally as well. We're currently on the Quabbanalu Road, and that's had about the same amount of money being spent on it at the moment. We also have had many events, but just to pull out at the moment that we had a great success during May with the Thank a Volunteer Gala, and we had a great turnout. It was a state government assisted event coordinated by the Shire to recognise and honour our amazing volunteers and the effort they put in to support, protect and beautify our community. So it was a great opportunity for us to recognise people that come out in the evenings, give up their time with their families and even put their lives at risk at times for us. So that was a wonderful opportunity. We've also been involved in many town beautification projects, and on there we have the new mural that's down on the Shell, and that's been exciting. We did some town centre activation, and there's a number of other wonderful initiatives in play, and we hope to roll out a few more murals very soon. So that's our program to date, and I think given the change at the Shire, it's been a reasonable year, and we've been excited that we've been able to deliver on that level. And so on that note, I'll hand over to Eddie and we can take you into the future.
Good evening everybody, and welcome again. Thank you for making the wonderful effort to get here. I get a great job. I talk about the future and what's coming up. It is really exciting. So I've got this bit of paper here telling me to look forward with purpose. We're responsible, forward-looking investment. We've actually, the Shire team have done a wonderful job. They've managed to garner in $18 million in capital secured, grants secured for this coming year. $18 million is absolutely marvellous, and they're going to be very busy people. And 90% of our capital work program is externally funded, so that's state and federally funded. Supporting local and boosting employment. The council's really excited with the upcoming budget because it is a balanced budget that will continue to deliver a high level of community services and events, support community groups and other different demographics, youth, ageing and early years. One little one on that one, there still is a bit of an outstanding debt from Rex Airlines, which we're still working on, and hopefully we can get that back in. As I said, we have $18 million in funding coming in. Some of the work's included in that, and this one is exciting because we'll see a significant change in the aircraft at the airport, which there's an $8 million upgrade seal occurring, which will see then the ability to daily have the Q400 coming into Carnarvon instead of the little one. I think a lot of people are going to appreciate that one. The Facine jetties will be going back in early July with an improved docking system with a greater load capacity, and I suspect we'll probably get an extended life out of that as well, so it's great to see that coming on. Roadworks, once again, we spend a lot of money on the roadworks, but there's another $1.6 million that'll go into the Manila Linden and Quabbanalu Road. And that will be going to a local contractor again, so that's another $1.6 million straight into the town, which is fantastic. The other things to look out for is the commencement of our Carnarvon Activation Plan, which is pretty exciting. You're going to see improved community amenities, art, seating, tourism, improved signage, entry trails and directional, not sure what that's for, but trails, signage, we missed the word, signage. Improved CCTV using new AI technology to increase productivity. Van Dodgen Playground project and installation of a big banana, which would be something special, I honestly believe that. And improvements overall in our footpaths, which, you did mention footpaths, didn't you? Which has been great to see. They've been long needed, those improvements, so we've got the upcoming improvements. And the curbing that's been done, I'm not sure if Maggie mentioned the curbing, but significant amount of curbing, which has made a big change. So other focus points for us is the council's role and with the support of the Shire is the advocation for our community, advocating for the community, supporting tourism growth, growing jobs and improved livability, and emergency management and resilience. We're committed to the tourism and product development, looking to work with the local industry to grow our seasonal offerings. We have been successful in attracting the State Tourism Conference, which is coming here in May 2026. Is that correct? Yes, it is, sorry, it is. We are now looking to grow jobs through the Shires, participating in a remote jobs and regional development program. This one is really exciting. We have now received funding for 12 jobs, full funding, full cost of 12 full-time jobs for the next 3 years. That's covering all costs. And that's exciting. That's 13 full-time jobs for 3 years at no cost. So that's pretty exciting. So that's going to enable us to improve services around the town, I'm sure. The Shire continues to advocate and lobby for improved flood and fire and cyclone resilience, and is actively representing the Shire on many committees and working groups and boards in an effort to raise the government's awareness, especially in the supporting of funding to improve the resilience of our town in these events. And there's a huge amount of work that goes on behind the scenes that nobody sees, but that is ongoing work. And in fact, myself and Maggie spent most of last Thursday, nearly a full day on one working group alone, which we achieved some great outcomes actually, so I was really pleased, and that was with the flood area of things. Communities' concerns, is this, we're up to the question part now?
Yes.
Ah, great. Addressing the mosquitoes, that's been a real one that's coming to hit us in the back of the head, and I think there's been changes that not a lot of people will know, that there's the spraying of or fogging for the mosquitoes, that is now regulated, and we can only do that when we're told that it needs to be done, and that's the measure on that is if they have sentinel chicken around the place. If they find some bugs in there, then the government will step in and they will help fund the fogging. But that's one of the reasons you don't just see the fogging occurring because there's high tides. There's got to be a reason for it. And one of the things that has brought that about is there's too many bees being killed. So the government has decided that it's going to be regulated, and that's what's happening. So cover up, people, use some spray yourselves. So sorry about that. That one's a little bit out of our control now. Approach to the greening and shading of Carnarvon. We're working hard with our Tree Society, with the Carnarvon Arboretum. There's a lot of work going into how we can do that. And I think it's important that we work closely with you guys, the community, on everybody putting a tree in their yard, at least one. It will help, and we should all play a role in that. I think it's important that we do. Update on the 1 Mile Jetty. The project on the 1 Mile Jetty is a state government project. I'm getting told that they're not far away from commencing work on it. And I think they're pretty close. They've just about got all their approvals. And I did get a whisper in the ear the other day that they may be able to do a little bit more than what they've been saying. So it'll be interesting to see when that actually happens, but we're waiting to see when the government's going to drop the hammer and get into it, so we'll all know at the same time. A big one that's impacting the town a bit at the moment, and everybody will have seen the police reports on the illicit drugs in the community. That is really becoming a problem. It is probably as big a problem, if not worse, than alcohol. But I understand the police are working really hard, and you would have seen what they've done in the last few weeks. It's been pretty good, but I know it's continuing. So I think about all I can ask is people, if you see something, let the police know, be a little bit patient, but they're doing the best they can. And I think as a community we should be supporting them as much as we can. So if you see anything at all, let the police know. Next one is, would the Shire consider supporting a bike/walking track along the Gascoyne River? We've been talking about a walking track along the Gascoyne River for years, but I would personally like to see that. But I think there's a lot of work got to be done and a lot of funding raised to be able to achieve that. So it's not, I don't think it's out of the realms, but we've got to consider exactly where it goes. In my mind, there is a lot of levies out there that maybe that would be suitable. Unless people want to trail right along the river's edge, I'm not sure, but that's something I think council can take on board and work through in going into the future. So with that, what was the next step?
Any questions from the floor?
Yeah, okay. Any questions from the floor, guys?
Eddie, could I have an update on the two projects, the Pier Apartments and the proposal by Kel Brown to build a resort out on the old touring site?
So,
Could we have an update on those, please?
yeah, the Kel Brown's project, which isn't the Shire project, but we're really aware of it. Kel is currently waiting on approvals from the Department of Water for a sewage line design that is put in from the proposed resort site into the current waste farm. Until he gets that approval, he cannot finalise the land tenure on the property. Once he gets that approval, then he should be able to finalise the land tenure and then move forward with the project. With the pier development, I think we've worked with the group that's going to do that development closely, and went to the RP, the Feds Forum. It's called an RPPP fund. A grant? Yeah. A Regional Precincts and Partnerships grant for assistance in that area. That's come through. We're not sure of the exact figures yet. There's a bit of negotiation and work to do on that. My understanding is there's a significant amount of interest in it now, and I believe we should see some action towards the end of the third quarter on that one, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Any more?
I've got a question. This relates to recovery of valuable metals and battery recycling. I know there's been issues with lithium-generated fires at the tip. I was just wondering whether there's any plans in the works to provide some sort of metal recovery facility in the town. Or is this just...
We'll take that one on notice, but I think that's something that I understand the Shire has been considering, because yes, we have had fires that may have been caused by lithium batteries. So I think I'll let the Shire put together an answer for that one, get it out to everybody. And it will rely on funding, of course, yeah. Tracy?
I just wanted to ask about the extension of the cemetery.
Yes, so I've checked on that.
An update?
Yeah, so at the moment, the cemetery is still within the approved boundary, and it's not going to expand any further. As Mandy's just let me know, there's still at least 150 sites available. So, but the current area is still within the approved boundary.
So could you let the funeral director know that, please?
Yes, yeah, I will, thank you, and I understand. Everybody's very quiet.
Flowers,
The $10 blowholes fee, what's that about? The parks are half empty throughout Carnarvon. The town's definitely not moving forward at present, and any blind Freddy can see that. To add extra $10 burden to a tourist that's just going up for maybe 2-3 hours is just totally ridiculous. I understand if the town was booming, but not one person from the Shire or the Tourist Bureau has done a survey through the parks to see what's happening. It's actually a joke. And while we're at it, maybe some better training for your staff. I had a staff member come to see me about a pool, a private pool. I did tell the person by phone that I don't have a private pool, and it was checked on 3 years ago and all sorted. The person still showed up, still took a photo of my backyard, not believing me. I think that's pretty poor form. So maybe CEO can take that one up, because I think if I've already told someone I don't have a private pool, and then I told the person who's checking up on this time and say, well, there was 2 people that already checked 3 years ago, there's no more private pool that's left the building, I think that should have been good enough. But to jump on a rubbish bin to take a photo is ridiculous.
We'll take that on.
But the $10 fee, I really think the councils need to have a real good think about that. That's just... I can understand a small camping fee. I'm not agreeing with the camping fee rate, but that's not for me to decide. But the $10 fee, that's just taking the mickey out of trying to get tourism into Carnarvon. You've already got those ugly blocks at the boulevard that are telling the people to move on. Come to the park, we'll go through and we'll talk to 20, 30 people. See what they've got to say. Read the 20 different Grey Nomad pages. See what they've got to say. If you want to do something and you're serious about tourism, that's where it starts.
Yep, we certainly are, and thank you, Dennis, and
Yep.
your comments are noted. Those blocks, with that work that I mentioned earlier,
Yep.
those blocks will be gone. They're there now so that the area doesn't get damaged any more by the traffic on it. And as I said, we've taken your comments and we'll consider those.
On that note, we're going to have some parking there then for the actual park itself, like if tourists come to town, where they're going to park to go to
Yes,
the
there'll
park.
be parking in place for that as well.
Yep.
Just on that, where to park, the signage just shows people that are towing like caravans and things like that is not really that readily available to you as you're driving down Robinson Street in particular, because the park is behind. So I'm just wondering whether some of the signage of where long vehicle parking can occur could be improved.
Yeah, so there is new signage coming to improve that.
This is usually you've gone past it before you even realise it's there.
Just to give a bit of an update, we are pulling together through the regional partnerships and Places Grant, and equally with part of the Carnarvon Activation Plan, we will be pulling together quite a package around tourism next year. We have been doing a lot of work and the team has done that. So as we mentioned in there, there's the directional signage, and we've certainly done an audit. And Dennis, we have been out and spoken to a couple of, to tourists that the other day we did a bit of a survey at the markets as well, and asked how they found the parking, how they found some of the fees. We've been talking, and the visitor centre team would like to do a museums and places ticket for next year. We've been talking about different products. We've been talking about getting some grants to help our eateries and things go back to, the special meal on a night, so people will stay another night. And we're certainly looking at some product development to try and find a way that people could plan that 2 or 3 days here. So there's a bit of work going into next year. We also want to make sure that we're really linking up with the events and that are going on. We've asked Gundamaya to have a bit of a look at how much they're doing in the space and what other events could be on, and they're keen to partner with us as well. So we understand that we need to provide a real product for people to come and stay on the ground and actually be here and get some real benefit from that. The fees themselves at the blowholes will also be able to fund different activities up there, and we have had some interest from some of our high-noted environmentalists and some of our environmental lobby people to be able to come up and run talks, to host events, and we do look forward to doing some more activation going forward once we're able to amass some sort of sense of what, markets out there, I suppose. So it is intended, the fees at the moment, to be able to cover our costs, and we have modelled the DBCA model, and we're looking at how that pans out this season, and we have been collecting quite a lot of data. We do scan the grey nomad sites, we have been looking at that, and we're taking it all on board.
Right, yeah. And just one more point, and it might sound like a broken record, but if you arrive in Carnarvon as a tourist any time in the evening of Saturday, you've got to wait till 12 o'clock on a Tuesday to buy takeaway alcohol. The Shire needs to try and help push, at least the Monday trade's got to come back. As a caravan park owner, our checkout's 10 o'clock. We leave people stay longer if need be. But the tourists are leaving earlier than the 10 o'clock now because the bottle shop don't open till 12 o'clock on any given day. And a Sunday and a Monday it's closed, and you've still got to wait till Tuesday, 12 o'clock. That is just not helping tourism in Carnarvon. And you only have to see and talk to the people up in Coral Bay and ask them how much has their bottle shop risen in sales. That's our people that have moved.
Yeah, look, we 100% take on board what you're saying. You're absolutely correct. It's playing a huge role.
Is there a future of, is the Shire doing anything to see what we could have changed there?
Every single day, just
Yep.
about, we speak to someone. What I have to say is you all have to get loud voices yourselves. At the moment, we are struggling to get 30 minutes with the liquor licensing department, and if they're listening, I hope they are. I am struggling to get them to listen to the council for 30 minutes is all
Yep.
they're going to give us. They are the ones that do it, and so you need to go to your ministers. We've been meeting with our liquor outlets. We've been meeting with, we've been understanding the risks and the areas with the tourists. And it is absolutely, there's economic creep. So not only is it the tourist, but many people themselves in town are going and doing their work and going and shopping more in Geraldton, not going to the hardware here, not going to the shops as much, those sorts of things. So the economic creep is huge. We also know many people going to Shark Bay and Coral Bay more often to be able to get alcohol. And we also hear when there is big lots of alcohol coming out of Geraldton, they let us know the supplies up there, and we also know that it's not reducing. So there are many issues, but the community itself has to get loud because the government is not listening to us anymore. We have asked that we can understand what is the process to going back to being normalised? When are we going to go back to normal? And what is the government's process in that? And hopefully, there was supposed to be someone here 4 weeks ago, and now they've bumped it because of the flights, unfortunately. Let's not get into that one. But they've bumped it to August, and so we're trying again, but at the minute, we are absolutely grappling to get 30 minutes with them.
No, I've got one. Just on the alcohol, has council formulated to have an agenda item as a cohesive group with all councillors that are going to actually write to the state government about alcohol restrictions, or is it just from the CEO?
No, it's come from council, and council has also pulled together the vote of no confidence in government, which has been around that went through council and was endorsed by council, which was about how we were fearing for our young people. But of course it comes on the back of a whole range of these sort of things, and the fact that alcohol restrictions and things weren't actually getting the outcomes that we wanted. We're in the process, the administration, of going to council to perhaps ask for council to take that to the Walga AGM, and equally we've got briefing notes that have all gone to all our ministers around normalising liquor in this town again and going back to normal, which we've asked for meetings with all of our ministers for the President and or Deputy to be able to meet with them and progress those conversations. So council has formally requested, and as I said, we are grappling to get half an hour for the councillors, not the CEO. So they'll meet with me, but it's not me that I want. Well, I'll put forward everything, and as I said, we meet with our liquor outlets and everything as well. But it's the half an hour with the councillors that I'm grappling to get at the minute.
Do we have to have a, lost the word. Do we have to put in a petition to have the town people who are being penalised by the behaviour of others to get a fair go in terms of access to these sorts of issues? I mean, is that what it's going to take?
I think letters, petitions, but to the state government, not to the
Yeah, I
council.
realise it's
What you have to
okay.
remember, it all has to go to the state, and you do need to petition your ministers or your member. Your member petitioned Shane Love, our member, and then ask that to be taken up and ask questions in Parliament, etc. A petition can sometimes help, but again, you all have to really advocate on your own behalfs. Because at the minute the council is being silenced and told to sort of step back.
Lack of white goods sorts is unacceptable, in my opinion. There was meant to be, what was it was meant to be when internet and AI and robotics got in, there was meant to be thousands of drops. Where are those drops?
AI's going to get rid of jobs. The issue here is, if you wanted to get a new fridge or washing machine,
Microwave it.
microwaves, you're having to run, a 5-hour journey there and back. So that's a full day gone just to go and get an appliance that you need in the house. And I know there are businesses in town that you can go and talk to and ask, but none of this stuff is generally known by the community in terms of where can I go to get a replacement fridge or a replacement freezer. These things are fairly important because we're looking after, my family's looking after a couple of guys that need assistance. And when their fridge goes, this becomes a critical issue because they need a fridge for medicine, they need a fridge for the food. And you can't just go anywhere after the shops have shut to replace those items. So I'm just wondering, is that sort of infrastructure has literally died in the last 5 to 10 years. We've seen store after store just closing down. And I'm wondering about what sort of thing we can do to enable certain product to be available in the town on the basis that it is actually needed. It's not something you can just wait a week to get.
I will answer this one. To be quite honest, and I think it's brutally honest, the community must support their local businesses. It might cost you a little bit more money, it might, whatever, but the community must support their local businesses to keep them in town. And if we were doing that, I don't think we would have the problems we have. Oh yeah, there's other things that are happening. Thanks, Mandy. I should have thought about that one as well. The work that we're putting in, we are looking at, and Dennis, you would know about this, is the food bowl expansion's happening. That's going to see the need for more employees in the town. Leichhardt are looking at another 70 workers out there. That's more people in the town. if we can grow the population, then with that there'll be a demand for those sort of things to be in place. And I think if there was sufficient demand, they would be back quite quickly. There are businesses out there that are monitoring it. Although the guys down at Elders that are selling some white goods tell me they can't keep up with demand. So that is happening there, but it is not their core business, so it's not something that they rely on, but that is quite busy. So it is available, but there's not a great deal of choice either. So that's the other thing. So it all comes down to numbers. If people shopped local, we wouldn't be losing those services.
And I understand shopping locally, and I agree with that, and not taken away from a bottle shop owner here or the BWS, but at the present, Carnarvon's handicapped. You've got wine at $15 a bottle. So if you drive to Geraldton and you get their specials, you could pay for your fuel and for other items, and then you want us to shop local, you know. I think the push has to be hard on getting, I agree with some restrictions, possibly, with liquor, but, you know, restricting price to $15 minimum. Poor old tourist likes to have a bottle a day, and that's their choice, husband and wife. If they want to drink a bottle, it's $15. You can't see people shopping locally when it's like that. It's cheaper to go to Coral Bay. You spend a day in Coral Bay, you paid for your fuel money, with the grog you bring back.
It
Sad.
does. The council is acutely aware of this issue. I have been for probably 3 months after the liquor restrictions were put in place. The council has worked extremely hard at trying to get a change made. But other than one liquor outlet that has, I know, been in Perth talking to liquor licensing, there is very little noise out of this town. There is very little support coming from the community itself. I'm ringing the Director General, who now won't take my phone calls. I have pestered them to the point where they won't answer the phone. I've made a nuisance of myself. The council is still lobbying and working as hard as it can. They're not listening, and there's no noise coming from the community. If the community puts pen to paper and makes a noise, it will happen. And that's what we need. We need that support. Thank you.
Yeah, as a business owner close to where, with the help of the Shire, had a hopscotch painting put down close to our shop. I'd like to thank the efforts there, and also the Parks and Gardens for their continued work. We always see it down through the main street. Admittedly, I don't get around to the Oval as much now. Kids are a bit older, but I would like to, definitely thank the Shire for those efforts around through town. Obviously, we do probably have our Parks and Gardens are probably a little bit too big for how many workers we probably have, but that's appreciated. And one thing I've always banged on about this, but small ball lights at the festival grounds. I did see, I think the state government put in just recently some big funding for, I think it was Rita Saffioti, big funding for that type of thing. Do we know if there's any movement on small ball lights at the festival grounds?
At this point in time, no, but that is something that can be and will be assessed in the future. Absolutely right.
Because that's another thing we can...
It is a key part of our big picture for Carnarvon.
If we want kids off of the street, if we want to keep them entertained, this is a big ticket item to helping that our youth being more engaged with sport and the community.
Yeah, that's something that we've worked on extremely hard, and I've got to compliment the Shire staff because they've really embraced working with that area of the community as much as possible with very little funds. They do attract a significant amount of funding from the state government and the federal government to work in that area. They're working their butts off, but it's going to take a lot more. Something that's occurred over the last 40 years is going to take more than 4 months to fix. And
We're working hard at it and we're not going to stop. We're continuing. They've got many programs in place. And I'm in awe of the staff and the amount they're actually doing. And it's hard to see it, but it is there and it is happening. But there is a core group of people that are slipping through the gaps because they don't want to be involved. They're not actually not being ignored. They are just don't want to be in the position.
This is not a negative, and just a point.
Yeah.
When we left Derby in 2006, in 2004, Fitzroy Crossing in Derby got small ball lights. That's over 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Those communities got it.
Yep.
We're way behind. We're getting this type of lighting for our football, any sort of sport at all, festivals. And so that's all I want to say.
It is.
Keep trying hard, and if we can get it there,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Can I just add to that? We wired up the first oval out there, and it is designed for more lights on the poles. If you have a look at the poles, it's a piece of railway line on the top of the poles, because the lights were never put up there for small bore. So the poles, everything, and the electrical system is designed to carry the extra lights, which now would probably be no problem because you go to LEDs. But originally, if you have a look at some of the poles, because they're counterweighted, they've got the railway line up the top of the pole where the lights never got put up. So I wouldn't imagine on a survey it would be a massive amount of money to ask for.
Yeah, thanks for that. No, I'm pretty sure the staff are taking that on board, and the councils that are here are taking that on board. But it is.
In fact, I think even the boxes at the bottom had the stuff originally for the lights.
Yeah, Mandy's just said that there is an application ready to go for the funding for the lights. So in the lead up to the election. Yep.
I've got a question about.
Sorry, the lady first.
Just with the alcohol situation, about 10 years ago I was living or spent a lot of time in Northern Territory, and they had a lot of regular offenders who were the main problems with the alcohol. So instead of being a blanket ban, everybody, whether you're a tourist or a local, you had to show your driver's licence. And there were certain people that couldn't buy alcohol because they just kept creating so much problems. So maybe look at being proactive and doing a proposal to the state government like, we would like to try this, we know that these are the particular problem people. Yeah.
So we actually do have a legislated banned drinkers register in Western Australia, and so that is absolutely in place. The banned drinkers register though is reliant on the police and other agencies and self-reporting, and so at this point in time it doesn't have the oomph, I suppose, or isn't quite hitting the mark for us to be able to take off blanket restrictions, is what they tell us. So that system is in place and it is available today.
Is it lack of resources? I mean, because I know in other towns are empowering people to be sheriffs, so they're setting the standard. This is the standard our community want. Respectful communication, know this,
So yes, look, it's a state government issue. I suggest you jump online. There's a great deal of information around it, and it really is up to sort of the agencies that control that to expand it and to help us all get more people on there, I suppose. But at this point in time, it is still very much developing, and it hasn't kind of reached the point that any of the communities that are currently having restrictions in place can step away from the restrictions, is my understanding from a state perspective. But we do have a legislated process around banned drinkers.
This one's a poles and wires issue to do with electrical infrastructure. Maybe about 10 years ago, after the last cyclone, there was an effort to have some of the electrical infrastructure put underground, and I'm just wondering, is there any ongoing activity by the Shire to encourage Horizon Power to actually upgrade its electrical network in the town and get infrastructure that would be damaged by storms and the like protected from damage.
Yeah, look, I'd have to take that one on notice. We do meet regularly with Horizon Power, and actually in tomorrow with us about wind turbines and different things, and power sources at Coal Bay. So we can raise that and put it in a response to that, if you like, in our notes from tonight's meeting, and understand where they're at. I know there was a shift a bit away from underground and power, but because having been involved in other towns, in the Kimberley and the Pilbara, but we'll need to double check and find out what is their policy at the moment.
Well, it's more a question, what are the contingency plans to protect infrastructure that can be literally damaged?
Yeah, so we do coordinate under the Emergency Management Act, the local management committee, emergency management committee, and every agency puts in their management plans for things. I know that we're quite fortunate here because we have people on site. Other towns, people have to travel the linesmen and different things, so I know there's quite an immediate response, and so they do demonstrate that they have a management plan in place for us to be able to get power back on at certain time frames, and also what we can do to meet needs in the community and things. So depending on the level of severity of a disaster occurring, we can then pull those plans out and look at what needs to happen to be able to support different cohorts of the community appropriately.
That getting services back is one thing, but I'm more interested in what sort of works are required to ensure that the service doesn't disappear in the first place because of some storm damage or flood or whatever else can occur in the region. So the reason why I asked this is that I was assisting a local family to find out about purchasing of a property, and in the discussions I discovered that a power line that currently causes issues, to get it realigned and moved was going to cost a fairly significant sum. It might get change out of $1 million, and in the process found out that the electrical grid in towns is approaching capacity, and that's a problem, particularly for some of the regions of the town. So if there's an outage, getting it back is one issue, but I'm more of a question of what plans are in place to ensure that the sort of outages we suffer and have suffered in the past won't come back to bite us.
Okay, we need to take that on notice, and we can look to seeing what Horizon Power has in place. It's not my understanding, some of that, and we do meet quite regularly, and at the moment we are looking at opportunities to grow the town from a housing perspective, and it's not my understanding that we're at capacity at all, so we'll look at finding some more information. Yes, how you going?
Good, thank you. I'm just wondering if there will be a recording or if the notes from the meeting will be posted on the website?
Yes, so we do. We will record. We are recording, and we will have those transcribed, and so there'll be minutes provided from the meeting, and if there's anything on notice as well, we'll do the best to publish that as well and keep people informed.
What time frame can we be looking at for that?
I think it will take us about a week last time, but somewhere in that range.
Thank you.
Sure.
Is there a possibility that the Shire will start getting fundings for sporting venues? Because they're so old, at least have a leisureplex or something? Because, you've got the old basketball netball courts, the old oval. I think, we need to all bring it all together under one big roof.
So that's absolutely the plan, and it is in the councillor's major projects documents, and they have been working on that. So I think now with some of the priorities that we've had, that probably sporting precincts and different things do take centre. We were encouraged too by the recent announcement that they would be looking more at sporting precincts across the state government, and so we will definitely be looking to see what we can apply for and how we can put our hand up for that. But it has been at least, I think, Steph, we don't have a mic for you, do we? But Steph knows it's been a high priority for a couple of years, and we've certainly talked about the fact that this is where our focus needs to go going forward. In the recent elections, we did have an advocating document out there, and though all our sporting complexes were very high on the list, and it is a high priority for council. Any other? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've got several questions, but I'll bang them off one at a time. Alcohol restrictions were enforced for a reason, as everyone well knows. It's okay for people to start complaining, we can't buy alcohol, blah, blah, blah. The only way this is going to be resolved is people have to take responsibility for their actions. It's as simple as that. So until people in our community start getting their act together and stop being idiots, the state government will look more favourably. Until that happens, the state government's got a responsibility to the people to keep them safe. So it's no good jumping up and down and all this. You have to dial into people who play up. Simple as that. The other quick thing, with the $10 fee for the blokes, has the Shire actually received any money, or are the records being kept as far as how many people actually visit, how many people pay, and who, because there was a provision, $250 a week or something to collect, has any figures been collected to see what the actual feedback is? Because I know a lot of people are refusing to pay, and the idea of the $10 fee or $30 fee or $100 a year for locals or anybody was to cover the toilets, water supply and all that. So that's the basic question. And if people refuse to pay, what are the repercussions?
So, do you want me to answer that now, Carl?
Yes.
Yeah,
Just
so
quickly, because we've got a couple of other ones.
Yeah, quickly. As Mandy said, we're now getting funding to be able to do the work that we must and legally we must do up there to maintain look after the area ecologically. We've got to look after that area. We've got to look after the toilets and everything up there. We're now getting the funding to do so. So anybody that goes up there can use the toilets, can wash their hands. It's there and it's going to get maintained. And it's exciting that it is being well taken up, and we are getting paid. And not everybody. I'm sure it's not everybody, but that's fine. But we are now, and look, I was up there on the weekend. I would say the camping sites were over 50% full, and there was a lot of day visitors there. But I'm really confident that it's working, and as Andy said earlier, we took the example of what DBCA do along the coastline and used that, and it's in place. Now, give us 3 months or 4 months, and so we can see exactly, we get a real idea of where we're going and what it is actually earning, because we haven't been able to look after it properly, and it's a requirement that we do, so that's what's happening, and we can afford to do it. But it's only very early days, and as per usual with anything the Shire does, people are looking for something to growl about and they growl about it. So I'm just asking for people to be patient, and I know there's other people that are upset about it, but a bit of patience, let's see how it goes, and if we can afford to improve the services up there for everybody, fantastic. At the moment we haven't been able to even maintain what's there, but now we are getting into a position where we can not only maintain, but improve it. So.
All right, Eddie, you said 50% roughly full, so what number have you set for caravans up there and camping sites?
That number will depend upon I've got to go back to the management plan. Yeah, it's about 50. It's either 50 or 60.
Yeah, I thought it was 60.
Camping sites. It's not
It
is not a caravan park. They're camping sites. I'm pretty sure it's okay. That's right. It is 50 caravan sites caravan capable sites.
Yep.
And the others are tents or swags, whatever. Yeah, and you said that we've got about 12 sites that aren't meeting the standard.
Yep.
And they will, now that we're getting some funding, we will have the funding to improve those.
It was that I brought it up as a conversation with you last year, 14th of July. Remember it? 'Cause it's my birthday. We go up for my birthday every year. And I told you there was 95 plus vans when we stopped counting.
Yeah.
And you said, not possible. Probably used a different word, but we'll go, it's not possible. But that's what we counted. So it would be good to know what is the number that you're going to maintain as a hygienic, safe.
Yeah.
So that was actually published when we put in place the fees, Dennis, so it is in the council's documents.
Yep, no,
And it's
I already
online,
read the number,
and
it's
yeah,
64
so
or something.
It's
yeah.
in the Blowholes Management Plan, 2016, 14, and so it's there. But at the minute we haven't got all sites activated because there's a number that aren't big enough, don't meet some of the requirements, they're too boggy, etc. So we're in the process of fixing those. So we have had some nights we're fully booked out,
Yep.
but we are also sending some people back to town because it is a requirement again of the management plan that people have a chemical toilet. And as much as we're trying to get that out there far and wide, some do turn up without that. So if they can't demonstrate that to us, then unfortunately they're not allowed to camp. So there are a couple of rules at the minute under the management plan that we are putting in place because that's what the state's told us. If we want to do this at the minute, we need to meet that plan. So we are not out to, it's an eco, friendly, and it isn't allowed to have 90 anymore. So some of the management is about it trying to do what it needs to do to meet the plan.
So what sort of reserve is it under DBCA?
It's not a DBCA reserve, it's a reserve of Department of Lands and DPLH, and it's vested in the Shire for caravan and camping and recreational use.
Yes, that I just seen with the notice that you've had a name to it, something reserved.
We called it the Blowholes Eco Reserve, that's what we've called it, but it's not a legislated name. It's got a number, in actual fact, under the state government rules on the formal paperwork, and so it has a number starting with 4, I think, if I get it right. There's actually 4 reserves, and they were vested in the 60s to the Shire.
So that's the management plan from 2016.
14.
14? So don't you think it should be revised?
Well, we are asking, and that's what's happening, Tracy, but we're also at the mercy of the Department of Lands and Planning, and so we have asked earlier this year, my understanding is they're engaging consultants to undertake a review of the whole reserve and how it is actually managed going forward, and so we're waiting for more information and for some more process from them.
Yeah, and also that you need to consult the Ingida people as well.
That will be a part of the new plan and where we go, absolutely. Any other questions?
Yeah, I think it'll be hijacked by anyhow. I think Eddie misread my question because I'm not against, or I'm not for, all I'm saying is, have we got some figures? Now, I drive a bus 5 days a week up that road and I see probably scores of people with vans, trailers and whatever that camp in the bush along the Blows Road. There's many, as you know, many spots you can just pull, some just pull off on the side of the road. Now, Mandy said people monitor it. Is that a ranger up there or a, how do people get monitored to see whether they've paid or if they've got a toilet or whatever? Because that seems to be a full-time job.
Well, we've got a couple up there in the role of campers
yes,
that are
that
monitoring caretakers.
fair
campers.
enough. Because at the end of the day, $10, people that complain about $10 is ridiculous. Because $10 these days is nothing. And if it's going to a good cause as far as improving the toilets and all that, I can't see a problem with $10. Surely, people can't be that hard up. And the other couple of quick things as far
Not
as...
everyone's loaded like you, boy.
Come on, Dennis, what's $10 these days?
Yeah, well, let's
$10
not,
going by
let's,
here.
shall I move on?
Yeah. I'm not against it, I'm not
No,
for
no,
it,
no,
I say,
no,
I'm
I
trying to get some
appreciate
feedback,
it.
trying to get some info, because people are going off, don't even know what the full story is.
Yes.
Now, with the Oval, there was, going a couple of years ago, plans to revamp the Oval or chop it off and make parking. This is a town oval. Do you know what the latest on that?
That is still on the books,
Still on the books,
because
right?
it is needed, but we will not be removing the whole oval, there'll be a portion
No,
of
that's-
the
yeah, I
oval
realise
utilised,
that,
and
but-
and then the plaza developed between the doctor's surgery and...
Yeah, but would that be, for public submissions or whatever?
Yes,
Right.
yes, it will go out.
Now, quick one, CCTV, you mentioned has been upgraded. Exactly where are the improvements or new installation going to be?
Predominantly in the town centre.
Right, in the CBD?
Yes.
Yeah, fair enough. And the cemetery, has the Shire got an actual plan, which is probably not the Shire's responsibility, but of where all the graves are supposed to be situated?
You're talking the Pioneer Cemetery?
Yeah, the old cemetery. Because I've got family there and no one in the Shire over the years could even ask or give me an answer as to where they're buried. It's like a shambles. I don't know whether it's the cemetery board have to do that or who or what.
So the Cemeteries Board govern the shires, and then the shires have a responsibility for their cemeteries. And what I know with the Pioneer Cemetery is that the plans, there are some plans, and we do know where some people are, but over the years some plans have been lost. So there are plans that people can have a look at if they would like to, and see if we have your family's names on the list. There's been some projects that have been done as well with State Heritage, and we've been trying to collect names in that regard. So it is a bit of a process going forward. From what I understand, we have a list of everyone who's there, not necessarily where they are, because over the years different markers and different things were used and then they were taken out and things. So we're not always aware of where people are.
Right, that's the question, because there is the plaque around the River Zero to show all the names, but the actual positions, because I think, you know, people have been walking on and God knows what. The other quick thing with the sand flies and whatever, mosquitoes, who are they you keep referring today that said you can't fog and all the rest? Which government department?
So there are rules through the Health Department on how we go about fogging, and we get a great deal of support from the Department of Health in terms of our monitoring, whether or not we can bait and manage the waterways and those sorts of different things. So we're not able to just go out and put chemicals in the environment anymore. There is a lot of legislation around that. So we work very closely with them and assess the risk to the community at the time and understand what are the bugs and the vectors that are being carried by the mosquitoes. And that's the Sentinel Chicken program that pretty much kicks off from north of the 26th parallel all the way up. We are having issues at the moment, there's no question, and it's been high tides, there's been the rain, you know, a number of different concerns there that see them rise. And we do bait very heavily, and we do try to treat our waterways as much as we possibly can.
Bibberwara Bore, I noticed you've put a new sign up, which is great, showing the entry. Who's in charge, or who's responsible for that? Because I'd like to put a proposal forward that I take my team out there to clean away 20 trees so there's something there for the tourists to look at. Can anyone give me permission to do that?
Not at this point in time, Dennis, because I myself am trying to work with the Friends of the Bibberwara Bore, and so there is actually...
This has been going on for 5-6 years.
I understand. It is a high priority now, and it is something that I really want to do. We are in the process of letting some works around the mesquite and things in the area. We've now had permission from some of the surrounding landowners to be able to go on and do the clearing. And so I am trying to work with the Bibberwara Bore group, and I see it as
Surely
very...
no one would be stopping that though.
High
I mean, you want to
priority.
work with them. You only need to take out 20 trees. Plenty of them
So
speak
we
whatever
will
it's
very
called.
much be doing that in the very near future. We currently have the project underway.
I realise, but you've just put up a brand new sign pointing
Oh, I'm not
into
sure
the
that was our
Illawarra.
sign. Was that our sign?
No, Bibbulwara, Friends of Bibbulwara.
No, that's the Friends of the Bibbulwara that put the sign up. It's not the Shire. So at the minute there's an agreement with them. So we have a number of these agreements. I often, even today something else came up and I was like, oh, yes, the school can help. And then Steph says to me, oh, there's an MOU in place or there's an agreement with a group or society that oversee these places. So
So
at
who's
the
in charge
moment,
of that at the moment then?
I'm not exactly sure who's leading that.
So Bibbulwara.
Yeah, who is it? But no one will
Yeah,
say who it is.
Steph's trying to tell us.
Friends of the Bibbulwara Board is an Aboriginal controlled organisation that was established, so Stephanie Perry, Naomi McMahon, there's quite a key number of members, so on
Yep.
the ACO registration list, they're registered and their contact details are there, we can get them to you as well.
If you could, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you might have them there, but they still have to go through the PBC of the England Aboriginal Corporation. So just be mindful.
Yeah, well, we are trying to engage with them a bit better and understand the way forward in that area and navigate sometimes the politics and make sure that we're doing the right thing.
The agreements the Shire has in these MOUs, is that stuff published on the Shire website, as a separate?
There are some, I know. I think there is some new regulations coming out about some of that, so there needs to be a number of registers. So we can look to where that is the case and see, but not in all instances, I suppose. But it's certainly, if someone wanted to ring up and ask, then we can let that knowledge out.
I was just saying that when people go looking for this information, yes, it's hidden away in the filing cabinet somewhere in the back room. But
Well,
if
that's
these
not the
things,
intent, but we can have a look
if
at
these
what we
things
do
were,
in that regard.
were published into the website as they occur, that would make life a lot simpler. I think, even the fees. I'm sure there's fees for where you camp around town are posted somewhere, but it'd be nice, if you
There
wanna
is a
know-
centralised fees and charges list on the website.
Yeah, but it's been a while since I've looked at the website. But
Okay, well, that's been in case all ongoing, and they're actually signed off by council today.
I'm just wondering how visible these agreements are for people to actually go.
Eddie? So, you were saying about a plaza thing next on the oval. Would I be suspecting to see an L shape cut out of the oval? Or what?
No, there is an area to the west side of the oval. That-
West is away from the transmission down. It's all-
There is
There's a
full-
concept in
there's
place at the
concept
moment.
in place, but
Oh, okay.
and then a walkway, plaza, whatever you want to call it, in that parking area between what we used to call West Farmers and Doctor's Surgery.
All
So
right.
it will reduce the parking in that current parking area, but that will then shift into that oval area. And then we can have a safe walkway from there and a walkway across the road and into the park.
So plaza is a what?
Well, it's all very concept at this point in time. It hasn't been signed off and there hasn't been any funding secured for the project. Those plans, though, are visible. There is, again, on our website, there are those plans where there's been community consultation previously on that, and it's certainly one of our activation program key priorities, that area, but at the minute it's very much in concept.
So I could technically go on the website and have a look at that concept.
Yep, you could. Yep, there's a projects area there. Anybody else have any other questions?
Just one comment, if you don't mind. A lot of things we've been talking about tonight, I really sympathise with the Shire and any other body that's in town trying to work towards improving our situation in Carnarvon. This epitomises our problem. You've got, what, I don't know, 30 people here or something tonight. Everyone's grizzling on social media about, well, the town's going backwards and all that sort of jazz. Nobody comes. You know, we should have 300 or 400 people here talking and demanding ministers to be here, police to be here, talking about the drug problem. The drug problem is a huge problem in Carnarvon. It's really the epitome of the whole damn problem we've got with the school and the community. It's all revolving around drugs. Primary school kids are on drugs, believe it or not, and the people in the agencies dealing with them know that that's happening, and that's going right the way through. So not only alcohol, but you've got drugs that are coming into a small community, and it's just happening over and over again. The people in the drug trade know who they are. Probably a lot of people out there in the community know who they are. Nothing happens. We should have people coming. You can't have 30 or 40 people here saying, whoa, the community's getting behind the Shire. That's bloody awful. It is really awful. And if you're in a community body, a sporting body, a service community organisation, you know damn well that nothing's happening in this town because nobody's getting off their arse to come to the meetings and get involved. Say to the people, say to the government, don't ignore Carnarvon like every other regional place in Western Australia like you're doing. Get the people here to come to meetings, put it on ABC radio and TV and say, we want the ministers and the government to come here and do something for Carnarvon. Because if you don't do that, we're going further and further down the gurgler. And people in small business, for God's sake, I really pity them. They're working their butts off and really not achieving very much at all. Because our community is sitting back, grizzling, but not doing anything about it. Not getting behind the Shire, not getting behind anyone else who's trying to do positive things in this town. So get out there and tell the people, for God's sake, come along as a community group in future and tell people what you've got to do, so you go to the government and tell them what they've got to do. It's just bloody ridiculous at the moment. It's really embarrassing. And I love this place. I'm going to die here. Thank God there'll be a piece of ground there for me when I die.
Wally, next time we'll call it Stop the Fish Trap meeting.
Yes.
And you'll have 300 people. Because people are more interested in that. And we've been to other meetings similar to this. We've had less, even less.
Yeah, tonight's actually not a bad turnout, so thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Wally, thank you. Look, I'll just say something. Wally, thank you for that. And you're 100% on the money, Wally. I think some of the problem we have is the community doesn't understand just how much work your Shire, your councillors are doing. We really are working our butts off, trying to make a positive change, but we just seem to be stuck in a negative rut. If we can't...
You need to maybe put it out there a bit more though, if you think that.
Yeah, well,
to be fair.
To
be fair, yeah, you're right about that, Dennis, but we are damn busy, so it's...
I understand that.
We are trying, and look, if anybody has any feedback on how to better communicate, because I have to say at the minute, we've got about 12 different ways we're trying to get things out there. I want to improve the notice boards. We've tried to increase sort of our side of the newsletter to be telling more of the stories of what we're doing. But if you have any other ideas, please let me know, because we've got we've got the Midwest paper, we've got our local newsletter. Many people aren't on social media, but then how are we reaching them today? That's, I think, a really big thing, is that a lot of our community aren't on social media, and we're trying our hardest through the notice boards. We were wondering whether or not to do letter drops for this the other day, but maybe you're right, we need to say cancel fishing in Carnarvon or something and see if it comes out.
You were saying letterbox dropping?
Pardon?
Me and one of my support workers and another friend are actually doing letterbox drops for the lithium batteries.
Yes. Yeah, well, we are. We're looking to see if that's something going forward so we can reach the home.
And another part to the, I'd say, is a failure of the police force is not dealing with youth crime with necessary force.
Okay, well, that is something that isn't for this meeting, unfortunately. I appreciate your sentiments, but that's not our meeting. There's one last question up in the corner there, I think. Everyone, if you could just sit down for one moment, one last question to go. Yep.
Sorry to bang on about blowholds, probably sure you're bloody sick of hearing it. But just to help me understand, so if I go up and camp for a night, I have to take a chemical toilet, is that right?
Yes, yes. We all need to have a chemical toilet. The toilets are mostly for day use, and so it is a requirement that you have a chemical toilet to camp.
So what's the point of having the toilets there?
As I said, they're not for the caravan sites. It never has been the case. The sites under the management plan need to have a chemical toilet, and that was agreed to in the management plan.
Even if I don't have a caravan?
That's the case everywhere along the coast because, and I can recall back in 2006 when we started working on the plan for the blowholes with the state government in attendance. I'm going to be quite rude because I remember sitting there going and saying straight out, not a speaker, but I did comment about what people were doing in the woods like the bears. I won't repeat exactly what I said. And that is another reason why we need those toilets, because people are camping almost all the way down to Black Rock, from the Shaps down to Black Rock. They're not going to 2 o'clock in the morning, travel all the way to the public toilets up the other end. So, and it's been the case for a long time. Once the toilets went in, there was a massive decrease in the waste everywhere at the blowholes. So, you know, and I don't think it's possible to go to any DBCA site without a chemical toilet. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure, but most places along the coast now, you need a chemical toilet.
Yeah, artificial reef, Eddie, and what's happening, is there any good ideas with the ones that can't be used?
Yeah, that's not a council project, but we supported 110%.
Even though they're all sitting in your yard though.
Yeah, that's
We'd like them to be, we'd like to find a use.
You must want to move them.
We would very much like to move them.
Yes, so, yeah, well, there was talk of using them at our waste site to form walls and our waste site, things like that. Yes, they did go there because the council saw the need for them to be moved from where they were. Well, it was costing ratepayers money, and you know, we're looking for a use for them.
So I'm a bit confused then. You just said it's not your project, but you're paying someone else to...
No, we weren't paying, the state government was paying.
State government.
So we're all taxpayers, so the state government were paying for it to be stored where they were.
So now the state government's asked the Shire and Arden
No.
School.
No, but we...
You're not answering any questions. Can you talk to what? Keep them on, you're not answering.
Okay. So
Who's other?
they belong to the, they belong to this, well, there isn't an owner, I don't think. There was a working group formed back in the day when the Wreckfish West and a few other people came to town and said, we can get you funding for an artificial reef. And then there was a working group formed, which included the Chamber of Commerce, and the process was run by basically 2 people, and got them constructed, and we just about had them ready. They were ready to go in the water when the government decided we couldn't put them in the water, even though there's 11 other reefs in the waters in WA of the exact same design and construction. So that occurred. The state government then, because, well, I believe it's because they dragged their feet on getting the approval to put them in the water, they took responsibility for them and then paid for the storage of them until we worked out what we were going to do. That still hasn't happened. The state government they refused to pay for any more storage, so they were shifted to the Shire because at the time the Shire thought we could use them for things like retaining walls in the waste side, etc. So that's what happened there. With the new reef, I got a report today, we're up to about 140 new modules, I'm pretty sure. And they're looking at installation into the 3rd quarter of this year. I think that's answered it all. Good.
Cheers.
All right, well, thank you very much, everybody. As I said, we will have documentation around the questions, and any questions we weren't able to answer, we'll get a response to you, and we'll put that out there that is available. Thank you for coming out on a cold night, and we appreciate your time very much.